This week on The Record, the future of education in Missouri, the push to steer public funds to private schools. State Senator Andrew Koenig is on the record. Can a Democrat win in the suburbs of St. Louis? Longtime political commentator Ray Hartman wants to parlay his name ID into a seat in Congress. How will he challenge Congresswoman Ann Wagner? Why the upcoming presidential election has board members resigning in protest from another president's foundation. We check the record. It's all coming up right now. Welcome to The Record. I'm Mark Maxwell. Missouri is on the precipice of passing a massive education reform package. Senate Bill 727 would open the door wider for more students from some wealthier families to leave public school and enroll in private schools, or for parents who may already send their students to private schools to get reimbursed for some of that tuition cost. The proposal would also expand charter schools and would set the minimum wage for teachers statewide at $40,000. The Missouri Treasurer would oversee that scholarship program that steers those public funds to private schools, and the man who wrote this bill happens to be running for treasurer. State Senator Andrew Koenig is now on the record. Good to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. You had recently shared a tweet from Congressman Eric Burleson that compared public education to socialism and said it would generate more socialists. Do you believe in public education, and do you hope to improve it?
I do believe in public education. Obviously, it's in Missouri's Constitution, and we are going to provide public education to all kids. But what I do want is, if you look at every government program, right now we basically have a government monopoly. When people take their food stamps, they don't go to a government grocery store. When you have, for instance, the Medicaid program, Medicare program, they take their voucher and they go to a private hospital to have their needs met. If you look at
we have oversight of those dollars, though.
We do,
and you can set regulations on where they're spent.
Correct. And if you look at school choice and everywhere it's been tried, the vast majority of studies show that academic outcomes improve for both the kids in the public school and the kids in the program. And so this is good for parents to provide options for parents. It's good for students. And so that's one reason why I support school choice.
If a representative from a teachers union was here, they might say it's because some of the students who don't leave, sometimes students with good grades are the ones that might migrate, and that can kind of skew the stats. That's some of the argument I've heard. I want to ask you about this, though. How much of the state budget do you think goes to education?
Yeah, there's large. So if you look at the foundation formula, it's over $3.5 billion. Roughly about a third of our dollars are spent on public education.
30 cents on the dollar.
Correct.
You consider yourself a fiscal conservative. I've read your campaign website. It says you want to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse in state government. That money belongs to the people. You believe it should be spent wisely. Mm-hmm. Should the people be able to see where their money goes?
Yeah, so I actually, in the bill itself, we create some more transparency, like what schools are going to be receiving it, where those dollars are going. They do have to take testing in the program that gets reported, and this is a new provision. Students, yes. So this testing right now only gets reported to the state treasurer's office. It will also go to DESE, the Department of Education. I have that in the bill.
Some charter schools, and I take it to be some private schools, could theoretically take public funds here and spend it. Say, if I was running a private school, I could go buy books or lunches from a company I run. Nothing would stop me from doing that, would it?
Yeah, so we do have these dollars do have to be audited. We do have their books have to be audited. So the way the program works is it's actually funded through donations and to a specific organization that provides these scholarships. I believe we do have good accountability, and nothing makes one thing that makes it really accountable is then the parents have that option to make those dollars to get the education for their kids that they want to see.
So should you become treasurer, which you're running to become treasurer, you'd have access to the books of each of these schools that use these?
To each of the EAOs. So the education assistance organizations, but then we would also have access to any school that is receiving these scholarships.
So you'd see how the funds are being spent. And what would you be looking for in that audit?
So in these audits, we want to make sure that the dollars are actually spent on education. They can't be spent on anything else outside of educational expenses. Curriculum, if obviously if it's tuition at a school, but it has to be, and in the bill we have a list of eligible expenses in there.
Mm-hmm. Homeschool parents are also considered in your proposal. If I understand this correctly, a homeschool parent could give some of their money, donate it to, and buy basically a tax break on the front end.
No, so that's not completely accurate.
What's wrong about it?
So the way it works is someone has to make a donation to the education assistance organization. Then a parent who wants to get a scholarship would have to go to it. So you can't donate to yourself.
So if you're a parent, you're disqualified from buying a tax credit here.
No, if you're a parent, you would go to the education assistance organization to try to see if you're qualified to receive that scholarship
For your student.
Correct.
Let's take the scholarship side and set it aside for a second. If I'm a parent in the state of Missouri and I want one of these tax breaks that comes with donating to the EAO, I qualify.
Oh, right. Yeah. Anybody that has a tax liability can make a donation.
So that's the front end. On the back end, a parent could possibly also receive, if they're running a homeschool or a micro school, they could qualify to receive compensation for that on the back end too, no?
So when they're looking to get compensation, what they're doing is they're getting those scholarships to spend on their kids, but the person donating isn't necessarily receiving that benefit.
Not
you
necessarily.
Have two separate entities. Correct.
Should the state have interest? Would the public have interest in knowing if those two are the same people? Double dipping, essentially.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously we don't want double dipping.
And you'd be looking for that if you were the treasurer?
Correct.
I want to ask you about Ulysses S. Grant, because he felt very strongly about this issue of public education. He said, quote, "Leave the matter of religion to the family circle, the church, and the private school, supported entirely by private contribution. Keep the church and state forever separate." That was a president quite popular in this part of the country. Was he wrong?
So what I believe is if you are specifically excluding religious people, then it's basically discrimination against religious people. And so
What would exclude them? They're welcome at public schools.
Well, I know for myself, one of the most important things for my kids are the values that are being taught. And sometimes I disagree with the values that are being taught in the public school. And so I want that option to get the education that my kids deserve. And so, and the reality is not every school can be everything to every child.
Before we let you go, real quick, if you're a treasurer in Missouri, the voters are getting what from you?
Yeah, so I mean, a couple things. Obviously, I'm a fiscal conservative. I have a very strong record. I had in 2022, I had a 100% rating from the American Conservative Union. I've been very effective at passing legislation, and so I'll definitely be fighting against Biden's federal digital currency and fighting against ESG, and also I'll fight to expand the ESA.
We'll have to have you back to hear more about that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Back in a moment. President Biden met with the Prime Minister of Japan this week. What does that mean for people in our viewing area? Well, his official agenda for that meeting did not include discussion about Nippon Steel's desire to buy U.S. steel, but the same day that meeting occurred, the U.S. Department of Justice announced it will investigate Nippon's decision to try and buy U.S. steel. It would impact hundreds of workers at a steel plant in Granite City. The federal government has raised concerns on what the Japanese-based company's acquisition might mean for union workers and supply chains. In other news, with Democrats gearing up to hammer Republican-led abortion bans in 2024, former President Donald Trump is retreating from the controversial policy he campaigned on and invited. He's backing away from passing a national abortion ban, stressing his desire to win elections instead. He also says Arizona's ban, which closely mirrors Missouri's, quote, goes too far. The implication there, surrendering the point to Democrats who say restricting a woman's choices in those personal moments would carry political consequences at the ballot box. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's group Think Big America highlighted Trump's former positions on abortion, saying Trump, quote, believes that women should be punished for having an abortion. Two powerful St. Louis County Democrats don't see eye to eye on funding. County Executive Sam Page wants to raise taxes to pay for a $500 million county government building, but he'll need the council chair's approval. Council Chair Shalonda Webb wants him to first release his hold on federal pandemic funds to support projects in the community.
It starts by making good on promises like what's behind me that we haven't done. It starts by taking care of your vulnerable. It starts by delivering on your promises.
Page's office says he's never connected the two, the project cornerstone in the new building, to the ARPA funding. Coming up, can a Democrat win a seat in Congress drawn for a Republican? Why a media-savvy Missourian thinks he's got a shot against Ann Wagner. You've probably seen him on the airwaves of St. Louis TV. Ray Hartman is now running for Congress. You hope to challenge Ann Wagner this November, should you survive the primary in August. So to voters who are just getting to know you as a candidate and not someone commentating on politics, what kind of a Democrat are you?
One who fights for democracy, who fights for the individual members of the district, who serves them, and takes very seriously the importance of our freedom, our democracy, which I think is more at stake in 2024 than it's ever been before.
A Republican could do all that.
Well, perhaps, except unless the Republican Party wasn't a Donald Trump cult. I consider Donald Trump as the biggest threat to the history of our country. I would use the words reprehensible predator to define him. And the reason I chose those words, they're the words that Ann Wagner used to describe him when she called for him to be removed from the ticket in 2016.
So you're trying to weaken her base of support. And there are some Donald Trump supporters who have booed her vocally at the Republican caucus, the presidential caucus this year. But she's come around to endorse him now. Look, you can craft a witty zinger and define your opponent, but what kinds of things are you going to advocate for in Congress?
Well, first of all, everybody knows that follows my work, I'm pro-choice. I believe very strongly in women's reproductive freedom. I also believe...
Should the states decide that question?
No, actually, I think that the Congress should codify Roe v. Wade and restore the freedom that women have had for 50 years that they've now lost.
Should Congress and the president codify Roe into federal law? As you know, under Roe, Missouri still had significant restrictions on abortion in place. Should states still be allowed to do that after the federal government one day may codify Roe into law?
Well, sure. I mean, they did before. And I mean, Roe v. Wade, did not allow, despite all the propaganda, didn't allow a woman to just decide at the very end of her pregnancy that she changed her mind. There were very specific benchmarks dealing with viability and very definitely carved out the ability for states to pass laws. And frankly, they would still have that, sure.
What questions would you have for House leadership or for the Department of Defense or for any federal agencies before you could vote to authorize more funding for Ukraine?
I think it's critical that the United States support Ukraine.
No questions asked.
No questions asked. And frankly, it's an issue where I don't differ with Congresswoman Wagner very much.
There are credible reports of misuse of funds and some corruption in Ukraine. How much oversight should Congress have of that before cutting more checks?
We have that built into any kind of foreign assistance we do, military or otherwise. And of course that you have to have...
Cost of doing business?
Yeah, of course it is. And I think that it's very important that we stand against Vladimir Putin and his interventionism, and he poses pretty much, because he's an ally of Donald Trump, and together that tandem would pose a great threat to the world, and that's one of the reasons I'm running. I mean, you can say, well, talking about this, talking about that. Donald Trump is an existential threat to our country, and absolutely his alliance with Vladimir Putin is terrible. And as far as where I would differ from Ann Wagner, I think, is I will stand up to and fight Donald Trump. She'll say all the right things, but when the chips are down, she enables him.
I wonder, President Biden has sharpened his criticism of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel over this recent war in Gaza. What conditions would you place on aid to Israel at this moment in the juncture?
Well, I think we've got to do everything we can to make it clear that that the Netanyahu government cannot continue to violate human rights and international law with regard to the Palestinians. And I am very much, I happen to be Jewish, I am a supporter of Israel all the way. I will say this, I very much as a Jewish person reject the idea that support for Bibi Netanyahu equals support for Jewish people. There's a big difference. Bibi Netanyahu is, from all appearances, a criminal, okay, who really does not serve the interests of the Israeli people. And it's possible to be a sharp critic, and I am probably more so, of Netanyahu, but understand that Israel is perhaps our most important ally in the world. And it's a very interesting tightrope to walk. And I know that, this is one of the times that being president of the United States is very difficult. And I will say Joe Biden's experience in foreign policy is a big help here. It's a lot more difficult than it looks.
Voters in the 2nd Congressional District, which is a district drawn to help Republicans, by the way.
Sure.
What's in it for them? If they punch the name Ray Hartman in November, what changes in their life?
For one thing, they're going to have a congressperson who they can reach, who can talk to, who will listen to them, who will go door to door to their and
You're saying it's a
listen to them.
contrast to now?
Oh, yeah. Ann Wagner has 12 years. And by the way, I'm not into the politics of personal destruction here, but Ann Wagner in 12 years has not had a single debate with an opponent, not a single town hall, not a single unscripted public event in the district, ever. 12 years.
What does that tell you?
That means that I think she views the district as subjects rather than constituents.
I take you to mean that you want her to debate you?
Well, sure, sure, of course, anywhere she wants, anytime she wants. But my point to you is, and I doubt that she's been on this show, she does not go on unscripted, she doesn't work without a net. And the point is, so the people in Congress can know, whether they agree with me on every issue or not, that I believe it's my job as a Congress member to serve them, not the other way around. So that's a critical difference. And again, I will be somebody, I think people know my style, a couple things. I will fight. But I also, if you've watched our show over 37 years, one of my brands, such it is to argue with people I disagree with, but respect them and love them at the end of the day. I think what the country needs as much as anything else are people who are not politicians, who go to Washington willing to talk and listen to the other side and willing to be reasonable. And Ann Wagner, bless her heart, has this fairly moderate persona. She tries to, but the fact is, she is a follower, not a leader, in the most dysfunctional Republican, the House caucus, majority caucus in the history of the country.
We'll have to leave it there. We do hope to have Congresswoman Wagner on in the months to come. We will see you on the campaign trail.
Thanks for having me on.
Ray Hartman, thanks for your time.
Thanks, Mark.
He's the president who said in his inaugural address, "My fellow Americans, our long national nightmare is over." Gerald Ford may be often overlooked and rarely discussed in the modern lineage of Republican presidents. He was never elected, but his sphere of influence linked administrations like Nixon's to Reagan's and to both Presidents Bush. And for a long while, he was a member of the Rare Presidents Club, that small group of men who've held the hardest job in the world. Now, the custodians of Ford's legacy are at odds over how his own foundation might flourish or flounder under a second term under Donald Trump. Let's check the record. White House photographer David Hume Kennerly resigned his post from the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Foundation this week in protest to what he perceives as a lack of courage from its leadership. Ford was a winner of the John F. Kennedy Profile and Courage Award for pardoning his predecessor, Richard Nixon. It was an unpopular move at the time, but it was one he truly felt could help heal a divided country. Kennerly highlighted how Ford, quote, placed his life on the line as a young lieutenant gunnery officer on the deck of the USS Monterey, directing anti-aircraft fire and attacking Japanese aircraft during World War II. He told personal tales of Ford's integrity, resolve, and character in the Oval Office, making tough decisions even when they weren't always politically popular. After all, Ford's the one who said truth is the glue that holds government together. If that's true, then lies must be what tear it apart. And lies are exactly what Liz Cheney exposed and prosecuted as the chair of the January 6th committee. That's why Kennerly wanted the Ford Foundation to honor her with the 2024 Ford Medal. He quoted the JFK Foundation and Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky, who called Cheney a, quote, consistent and courageous voice in defense of democracy, someone who refused to take the politically expedient course that most of her party embraced. Liz Cheney won't win the Ford Medal this year. According to Kennerly, the other members of that board feared, quote, what might happen if the former president is reelected. So in his resignation letter, Kennerly wrote, some of you raised the specter of being attacked by the IRS and losing the foundation's tax-exempt status as retribution, that R word Trump likes so much these days. He scolded the other board members, writing, quote, the historical irony was completely lost on you. Gerald Ford became president in part because Richard Nixon had ordered the development of an enemies list and demanded his underlings use the IRS against those listed. That's exactly what the executive committee fears will happen if there's a second coming of Donald Trump. Then he offered this blistering analysis of our country's current state of affairs. Mr. Kennerly said many foundations, organizations, corporations, and other entities are caught up in this tidal wave of timidity and fear sweeping the country. I mistakenly thought we were better than that. He said this is the kind of acquiescent behavior that leads to authoritarianism. He signed off, saying after this current divisive era passes, people will remember who stood up for what. Awards won't matter all that much, but in the end, the record speaks for itself. That's all of our time this week. We do hope you'll be back to see us again next Sunday at the same time. Until then, we're off the record.